Good morning and welcome to our first live production of the Maryland Society of Accountants Tax Professionals Facebook Live program. We are here this morning with a group of great people that we have been working with for many, many years. But before we get started with our guest speaker, first I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Sandy Steinwinner. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Society of Accountants. And I just want to do a couple administrative things and bring you up to speed on what's going on with the Society. First, I want to congratulate the many scholarship recipients who were awarded scholarships by our foundation in January. We awarded 17 scholarships in the amount of $14,000, which is very, very great. And I really appreciate the foundation and all the work they do with the Society. In the mail, you'll be receiving very soon your ballots for some changes to some bylaw changes, as well as our slate of officers for the next season, which will be beginning on July 1st of 2018 and runs until June 30th of 2019. So when you get your ballots, please look that over and send in your responses. Thank you so much for doing that for us. Also, in the mail, you'll be receiving shortly our 2018-2019 education catalog. The Education Committee has been very, very hard on this year's programs, and they are very excited about the courses that we're going to be offering in the next year. So please keep an eye out for that, and it will be actually in your mail and your inbox probably the week of April 18th. So keep an eye out for that. Lastly, actually two items. First off, I want to say congratulations to us. We're celebrating our 1-year anniversary here at our new location here in Columbia. We have really done an amazing job with engaging our members. We've had visits from our members throughout the year, and our door is always open, and we'd love to see you. So please stop by the office here in Columbia. Also, remember where we are. Here's our address where we're located. We are at 10630 Little Patuxent Parkway, Suite 146, Columbia, Maryland 21044. And the reason why I'm sharing that is because I know you'll be sending in your dues payments and registrations, and I just want to make sure that we're receiving them because we are still getting some mail to our York Street up in Tawnytown. So please make a note of that change, and so that we do get all of your correspondence. We don't want you to miss out on any of our seminars because we are finding they are selling out, and we don't want anyone to miss out if they want to attend. And lastly, due to many requests from our members, we've added on the Maryland Registered Exam Prep course again this year. It will be September the 24th here in Columbia from 1 to 5. Thank you, Rich Godfrey, for agreeing to teach that class again for us this year. We've had great success with this course. We are having a passing rate of people who attend of about 82%, which is wonderful, seeing that people who do not take a prep course for this state required exam for registered preparers is 38 to 45%. So please, if you have employees or who need to take this exam who are preparing returns for you, please make sure you sign up for this course. It is a very good value. Now, without further ado, I want to turn over to our guest speaker, Phyllis Berlage, who is our past president, past CPR committee chair, and all-around guru when it comes to legislation. Thank you, and good morning, Phyllis, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you, Sandy, for that wonderful and over-exaggerated introduction. Eye roll that you missed seeing. I'm here today to talk to you some about the Maryland Healthy Working Families Act, the Sick and Safe Leave Act that went into effect earlier this year. Now, I'm not an expert on this. Basically, I've done a lot of reading on the website and talked to a bunch of people. So we'll be talking about the basics today, but when you get into the real nitty-gritty, you're probably going to have to do your own research by going to the website. Now, DLLR, right up front, I want to say that DLLR has a great website with a lot of information on this Healthy Working Families Act. First of all, this covers every Maryland-based employer, period. There are no employer exceptions. It doesn't matter if you are the only employee of your S corporation or your C corporation, or your spouse or your kids are your only employees, or how many employees you have. You are covered under this Healthy Working Families Act, and you have to comply with the regulations and the rules. So if your business has a primary location in the state of Maryland, you're covered. Now the question becomes, who has to be paid for leave and who does not have to be paid. Now, the first thing that you have to do if you're an employer in the state of Maryland is you have to have a written policy regarding the Sick and Safe Leave Act. Now, the DLLR has great sample model policies on their website for printout. This is a sample policy for employers who want to front load the 40 hours that they're required to give their employees. And this is a sample policy for employers who want to have their employees accrue their sick and safe leave hours at 1 hour per 30 hours worked. So these are available. They'll cover you as far as your requirement to have a written policy with I don't know where there's a hand reaching slowly forward here. Okay. Regarding the Sick and Safe Leave Act. You're also required to have notices for your employees. So also on the website with the DLLR is a sample sick and safe leave employee notice that you can hang in your employee washroom next to that workers' comp notice that you're required to have by the state of Maryland. So all of this is available to make it easy for you to comply with these regulations. You have to have the records on your employee accruals. The records have to be kept for 3 years. We know about the policy. Now, as I said, you can avoid a lot of aggravation if you want to award 40 hours of leave to your employees at the beginning of the year. It doesn't have to be on January 1st. You can have a fiscal year. You have to let your employees know what the year beginning and ending are, and that they have 40 hours that they can use right up front. Otherwise, your employees have to accrue 1 hour of leave for every 30 hours that are worked. It's a maximum of 40 hours a year that you are required to give to your employees. That is the minimum. You can have policies that give more. One of the questions has been, do I have to have the same policy or do the same type of leave policy across the board for all of my employees? And the question is no, you do not. You could have your full-time salaried employees give them their 40 hours right up front at the beginning of the year. You could do the wage accrual for your part-time employees or for your hourly employees. So it doesn't have to be one policy for every employee that works for you. A certain amount of unused hours can be carried over to the next year, but you do not have to necessarily do that if you award the 40 hours at the beginning of the year. And a maximum of 64 hours is all that an employee can have at any one time. Now, as I say, these policies are available on the website at the www.dllr.state.md.us, yada, yada, yada. So you know that if you Google DLLR, it's going to come up and you'll be fine. Any employer whose main work location is in Maryland has to cover their employees. The leave is paid if there are more than 14 employees. That's 15 or more employees, and the leave has to be paid. 14 or less employees, and the leave has to be unpaid, but everybody gets the leave. So how do you decide how many employees you have? The rules say that you use the average monthly employees for the preceding year. So if I have a calendar year, I'm going to go to January 1st of 2017, this is 2018. January 1st, 2017 through 12/31/2017. How do you figure out the average? The rules say you count the total number of employees that you have had each individual month, add them all together, and divide by 12. And if it's 15 or more, then it's paid leave. And if it's 14 or less, it's unpaid leave for the following year. So every year you're going to do that calculation. So it's very possible, if your employment level fluctuates, that you may have to pay for leave in 1 year and not necessarily in another. Now, which employees do you count? Every person on your website, every person in your company who receives a W-2 is going to count when you're doing this monthly average. It doesn't matter if they're full-time, part-time, whether they're under 18, whether they're seasonal, however it is, if they get a W-2, they are counted when you're figuring out if you have to do the paid or the unpaid. They may be exempt from coverage when all is said and done, but when it comes to counting the number of employees for this monthly average, everybody basically who breathes is going to be counted. Okay, now, once all of the employees are counted towards that monthly average, there are certain employees that you do not have to actually cover for leave. They include employees who regularly work less than 12 hours a week. And let me tell you, when you go on the DLR website, they have a really great FAQ section, frequently asked questions section, that talks about this 12-hour per week deal, because there must be at least a half a dozen ways to calculate this 12-hour week, depending upon whether the employee is paid weekly, bi-weekly, twice a month, however it goes. I mean, so if you really have employees who are working less than 12 hours a week, or you think you do, you want to go to this website and look at the FAQs on how to calculate these part-time employees. Certain independent contractors do not have to be covered. I'm not really sure what they mean by certain. That would be another one to check on the website. Generally, real estate brokers and real estate salespersons are not covered. We know that for the most part, they're not employees anyway. Individuals who are younger than 18 years of age before the beginning of the year. So even though those employees are counted when you're figuring out if you have 15 employees or not, they are not actually covered during the year if they were under 18 at the beginning of your Leave Act year. Certain construction workers who are covered by a collective bargaining agreement. Now, what they've decided is that construction workers who are covered by a collective bargaining agreement that has a leave policy in the bargaining agreement would not be covered. But if you have construction workers who are part of a collective bargaining agreement, but the bargaining agreement does not cover a leave policy, then they would be covered. So this is, once again, one of those weird gray areas where you're going to have to go to the website and the FAQs and see exactly how it's going to affect you. Certain employees working on an as-needed basis in health and human services, and certain employees of a temporary services agency. So I think that anywhere it says certain up front, it's a gray area, and if it affects you, you need to do your research. Now, what can they use the leave for? First off, the leave cannot be used for the first 106 days that an employee is employed by you. So somebody can't come on board and accrue a day of leave and say, hey, it's opening day, I'm going to the game. All right, this is not personal leave time. This is specifically for healthy family leave. So the leave can be used to care for or treat the employee's mental or physical illnesses or a condition. So effectively, the employee's sick, if they have a doctor's appointment, if there's something going on physically for them, they can use the leave for that. They can also use the leave for any one of their family members who may have this issue. So, for example, a parent may have to deal with a child. Many of us have aging parents, and we have parents who need to be taken to the doctors or that have issues, cognitive issues, where we may need to take some time off from work in order to deal with those issues. So any family member with a mental or physical illness, injury, or condition. To obtain preventative care for the employee or the employee's family member, for maternity or paternity leave, for an absence due to domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking committed against the employee or an employee's family member. So effectively, we're saying if you have an employee who's having a real problem with an ex, where they're being stalked or they have a protective order against that ex, they may not be able to come. There may be issues where they're afraid to come to work. They're afraid to leave the house, or they may need to go to obtain legal services or some sort of counseling for all of this. So this falls into the sick and safe, the safe leave part of this act. Now, and the other piece of this is that as an employer, you are required to provide each employee a statement of used and available paid and unpaid leave with each pay period. So here goes another whole piece of record keeping that you have to do with every pay stub. So the pay stubs are now going to have to show how much leave they've accrued, what they've used so far, and what they have available. If you have any questions about this or any comments about the Act or any of the issues with it, you can email DLLR at small.business@maryland.gov, and they will be happy to answer your questions. As I said, DLR has a fabulous website. I will answer any questions that I can, but don't be surprised if I say check the website. We're good? No questions? Thank you. That was the part I was most worried about. So now I get to slide out of camera range, and I'm going to introduce two of our corporate sponsors two representatives from Ease Technologies, who is one of our corporate sponsors. And I have to say that I have no idea what they're going to talk about, but I know you're going to love it.
Good morning. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you for Sandy and MSTPA for having us this morning. I'm Matt Schmidt. I'm here with Jason Sheardon from Ease Technologies. We are your full-service IT consulting firm. Here's Jason. Jason is very shortly going to run through some live demos for you, and we're going to talk about how you can move your practice to the cloud very easily and very securely. So we're going to turn it over, and we're going to demonstrate that and what that looks like.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I won't bore you with my ugly mug up there this morning, but hopefully we'll show you a few items here. And I think this is kind of tying into the recent, all the recent information in the news with security and everything under the sun that we've got to deal with in terms of technology. But one of the things that we wanted to just highlight for everybody at the MSATP is the fact that, a third of our business is supporting accounting firms. And, 100% of those accounting firms are moving to the cloud. There's just no kind of denying it anymore. It's just too stable. There's too many ways that we can audit and protect your data inside a cloud environment and never have to worry about your laptop or desktop or data being compromised. So I'm just going to show you guys, I know that many of you probably know who we are and have talked to us before, but I figure in this quick 2 or 3 minute demo, I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. So where everything's moving towards is kind of a two-factor authentication or, maybe actually a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'm just going to log into what we're going to view as our portal. And you guys can think about this logging into any application that you currently use for your tax practice. And furthermore, even the computer that you're logging into. So I'm going to show you one spot that you're going to log into, one password. And the reason I have my phone beside here is so I can show you some of that two-factor authentication piece as we log into things. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. When I log in here, you're going to notice that it's going to ask me to push and authenticate me as long as I type in the right password. Whoops. I think I might have typed the wrong password. Sorry, folks. There we go. I typed in the wrong password. So first, you still have to type in a password. So I can't get rid of that completely.
We can make this easy on you, but you still have to remember one.
You still have to remember one password. The idea here, though, is that you're only going to have to remember one. And when I click that push authentication, you're going to see a little pop-up box come on my phone. And when that pop-up box comes on, it's going to authenticate me, Jason, and say, hey, are you sure you're the one that's supposed to be logging in here? I'm going to hit the green checkbox, and it's going to let me go ahead and log into my portal. So this is what the future of, whether you're an accounting firm, a law firm, or anybody, this is what the future is going to look like. And when I say the future, you're going to notice that my dashboard is completely customized to me. These are the main applications that I use. So if you're sitting in front of your computer now and you log into Thomson Reuters, or you log into CFS, or you log into Drake, or you log into any other accounting application, QuickBooks, or anything that's out there, you're going to basically be able to do that from one dash panel. I can even integrate the things such as LinkedIn, and somebody say, well, why would you want to have your LinkedIn tied to this as well? Well, again, having this information inside LinkedIn allows me to change passwords at a regular interval, and I don't ever have to worry about remembering what the actual password is to LinkedIn. So the nice thing is that this password changes, and over time, if LinkedIn gets hacked or Facebook gets hacked or Google gets hacked, whoever, that your password's being changed in the background all the time. So when they finally come, out with they've been hacked 12 months ago, that your password has probably changed 3 or 4 times. So besides that one kind of click functionality that you have within inside of this area, we also put for our accounting firms you into the cloud. And when I say into the cloud, I mean that your desktop now, instead of running it locally, will be in a cloud connection. It'll be secured in a data center. And again, it's going to provide you all that 2-factor rich authentication back to your desktop inside that cloud. The advantages for anybody that's out there is that you are never going to have to back up your machine. If your laptop gets stolen, damaged, I don't know, maybe you're having a great day on the beach and you drop it in the sand and the tide comes in. However that plays out, you can throw that laptop away, go to any laptop, and get right back to work, get right back to your spreadsheets, get right back to all of your applications and never have to worry about that. So this particular piece of the demo is pretty boring. You're looking at a Windows desktop. The difference here is that you can access this desktop from a browser. You can access it from an iPad. You can access it from an Android tablet, Mac, PC, whatever. The nice thing is when I kill this session right here, no data is on my computer. It's all safe and secure in the data center, which is actually audited by accounting group. So that's really all I have for the demo. So short and sweet, and that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jason. That was pretty amazing.
You're
You
welcome.
rock it.
You're
You
welcome.
rock it. And thank you, Matt, too.
Thank you, Sandy.
And thank you both for being here this morning. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Phyllis for offering that great information about the Workers Act. And thank you so much for taking the time this morning to do that. So I think that will conclude this morning's event. And we will be doing this every Thursday at 9 o'clock. So you will have an opportunity, if you missed it today or you missed some portion of the presentation today, it will be available on YouTube early next week. Is that correct, Kate? Yes, thank you. And again, we're going to be doing some new topics. And I believe next week's topic, we're going to be touching on the HSA issue. Phyllis has agreed to be with us again next week. And actually, we'll be having TAS, Dana Braun from TAS will be with us next week to also help with that topic. Thank you both, everyone this morning. And that's a close.